Representative Pearson.
Thank you, Speaker and sponsor. I just have a few questions related to this. One of the key notes here is that this bill provides aerial coverage for public or private property with the consent of the private property owner when used for providing or enhancing security for an event open to the public. What is the process for law enforcement to get permission when the property is public, for instance, a school or something like that? Does the LEA give permission? Is the principal? Do all parents sign a form for law enforcement to be able to use drones on the property? And how are we protecting our children or community's identity in these cases if they are not the alleged perpetrators of a crime?
Representative Gillespie.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So there's a whole slew of procedures and rules and policies in place that this bill does not address. I would refer you to go back and look at the department's policies, depending on where your hypothetical scenario is taking place. This is just simply allowing the use of what we already do and the procedures that we already have so that we don't have to vote on this every couple of years. That it's just like police use radios now. The General Assembly does not have to approve them to use radios every 4 years. That is all this bill is doing.
Representative Pearson.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for that, sponsor. I'm worried about, concerned about, interested in the consequences of us continuing to allow for this to happen. And so are you saying you right now don't know or understand how it works when drones are used on public property?
Representative Gillespie.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Quite frankly, no, I do not know, because there are multiple, dozens, maybe hundreds of rules involving the use of drones by law enforcement bodies across the state. There are rules involving how LEAs regulate their security. I mean, I would imagine there's a... no, I do not have that information at this time.
Representative Pearson.
Thank you so much, sponsor. I think sort of without that information, I want to just make sure that if, again, we are approving for law enforcement to be able to do this, that those protections are in place. And so maybe having more time to actually look at what the consequences of this would be for our education system in particular and the places that are involved in the public. While I understand, and I think it's a good idea to have or ensure that permission is granted from private landowners to have surveillance be used as a part of any criminal inquiry, making sure that we have those protections and knowing what those protections are, I think are going to be really important for us before voting on this. Thank you.
Representative Gillespie.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would just simply say or ask you, if you have those concerns, to go to your local law enforcement, your local LEA, to discover what they do and what they don't do. Over the last several years, this technology has already been utilized. We're not changing any of that. And I would just simply say that there are protections in place. There are privacy policies in place. Those have been, I'm sure, they get mishandled occasionally. And when that does happen, it is brought to light and there's investigations done. This is something that happens on a daily basis, whether it be a sports stadium, a music festival, or I'm sure the unfortunate tragedy that took place last night on the Tennessee River. Drones are vital to law enforcement and fire departments across the state, and they've been using them for years, for the most part in responsible manners. And I would again consult you to, or ask you to go maybe talk to your local law enforcement, your local LEAs, to see what policies they have in place.
Representative Pearson.
Thank you for that, sponsor. I do think it's really important that we have drones, that we use technology in a responsible way, and part of our work in ensuring the protection of the folks that we represent is penultimate in the work that we do as well. So thank you. Thank you, Speaker.